exactly. So you guys, this is probably your first coffee with a capper with us.
It is.
Yay, well, welcome.
Thank
It's
you.
pretty easy. You've probably done things like this before, but basically we just get your whole life story and you give us all the secrets of your success.
Oh boy.
All the deep. And I mean all of the deep.
All the deeds.
All the deeds. Basically to help out anybody who's here kind of navigate their path. So we always start with a little bit of like how you got into the business and maybe like what you did before.
Well, so I usually tell Angie's story and she tells mine. It's a little more interesting.
Sure.
So I was a teacher, right? And we had small children, and Angie was getting a little bit bored of staying home with the kids and decided one day she was going to go to a job fair put on by Nothnagel Realtors and just check out real estate because she always loved houses. So she went down to the job fair and came back and she was so excited. She said, I think I want to be a realtor. And she was mentored by John Arquette from Nothnagel. And she decided to get a real estate license and start selling. And I thought, oh, that's cute. You know, keep her out of trouble.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. Oh, good for you.
With a little job.
That's a cute job, right?
Nice little hobby.
Nice little hobby for you. So year one, Angie went to the office and got her business cards and got her brochures and started doing her thing and sold, you know, half a dozen houses, and it was great. She had fun. Year two, she sold like 24 houses, and I'm like, huh? What's going on here? And her income surpassed mine in year three. So her little hobby was actually making more money than my teaching job. And I was curious, right? So she has been selling for 18, 19 years now and built a great little business all by herself at Nothnagel, most of it. And about what, it's been 10 years now?
10 years since we've been at Keller, yeah.
10 years ago, Kristen Parshall approached her about Keller Williams, and she was like, no, that's never going to happen. But she was getting a little bit bored. Every time she would go to her manager and say, hey, I might want to start a team, or I might want to do this, or I might want to do that, they would pat her on the back and say, oh, honey, just go back to work. Just, you know, you're just going to sell, you know, whatever, and just go back to work. And she was kind of getting bored. So we looked into Keller Williams, did a lot of research, and she joined Keller Williams 10 years ago.
On my birthday, my 40th birthday.
On her birthday. And at that point, I had left teaching and started a small marketing firm. And she needed help because she needed a logo. She needed all of her design work done because she didn't have the big Nothnagel to do that for her anymore. And
they charged me for it.
And so I started doing her marketing stuff, her design stuff and all that on the side. And it was a couple years after that, maybe 5 years after that, well, I'm telling my story too. I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah, stop. So stop right there.
Anyway, so let me just go on and say that Angie's business for the first 10 years was very, very, very kind of nonchalant. Like she'd wake up in the morning, the phone would ring, and she worked hard and she had lots of clients and she had all this stuff, but she didn't ever do anything.
It was E. You know, we talk about E to P. For the first 10 years, it was all E.
There's nothing intentional about it. It just happened. So then you tell my story.
So then he was working from home in his little basement office with cold feet every day because it was cold in the basement. And I was running around meeting people, having fun, and I'd come home at the end of the day and he would be like, oh, you had a good day. That was fun. And again, I was making more money than he was. And then it got to be at Keller Williams where I was like, I need help. I need marketing help. I need this. I need that. So slowly he started kind of getting into it. Now his background, he went to college for illustration and photography. So he has a degree in photography, and then illustration turned into graphic design. So I had my own marketing department right in the house. So he started doing that. But then, you know, you talk a little bit about like working from your strengths and your weaknesses. And I have a lot of strengths, but my biggest weakness is paperwork and organization and technology. And he luckily fits all of those holes for me. So he was like, and I have this brain, this insane brain where like I can write a contract and 6 weeks later, I know all of the details, the buyer's phone number, the attorney's phone number, closing date, like all the stuff. So I never wrote anything down. It was just like loose papers everywhere.
And the deposit checks are in the, you know, the footwell of the car, and you have to go and find them. And
the glove compartment.
Right. She never had any paperwork to submit. I'd have to actually dig through her bag to get all the paperwork out and put it all together. And then one day I took the Keller KPA, the Keller, what is it, profile assessment test, whatever, to see what kind of job I might be good at. And I was a 100% match for an EA.
Lucky me.
Who knew, right?
So I took the pile and I went.
She handed me the pile and I said, okay, I'm going to do this with you. And we picked a date that I was going to quit my job and I was going to get rid of all my clients and I was going to start full time, and I got licensed. And she handed me the pile and we never looked back. It just became her doing her strengths and me doing my strengths. And I was, you know, 100% KPA match for an EA. So I did that for, you know,
3 years.
3 years or 2 years. And then I started going on appointments with her, and we found out that the secret sauce was listing appointments together.
Oh.
People like us together because, first of all, we're goofy and funny and entertaining. We don't realize we finish each other's sentences and we do silly things. But especially when it's like an older couple and they really love our banter back and forth. And I think, you know, we're able to speak to our strengths. Like I'm the people person, I'm the negotiation person, I'm the comp person, I'm the, you know, I'm going to hold your hand through this transaction person. And he's got the house knowledge. Like I don't care about the details of an electrical system. I just don't. I never have cared, whatever. But he's got that man piece where he can walk through the house with the husband and talk about all the mechanics, and they click immediately. And the wife and I are sitting at the kitchen table talking about decorating and staging. And I can't tell you how many times we've gone on appointments that have been competitive and people have said, we already picked our realtor, but we're not going to go with them. We're going to go with you guys. And I think there's something about the way we work together that makes people feel safe. And it makes me feel safe because I know that whatever I don't know, he's going to jump on right away and vice versa.
Yeah. So it's interesting because obviously that's like a unique selling proposition that you guys have that I don't know too many other people have, but you don't sell that proposition in any of your marketing, right? It's you, Angie. And then it kind of like, JD, you're a bonus that nobody knows about until you show up.
Well, here's the funny thing. I've had clients that I've had for years, and he starts coming on appointments. And then one day I show up and they're like, where's JD? And I'm like, well, what am I, chopped liver? Like, we've known me for 8 years. Like, why does he need to be here all of a sudden? But, you know, we just kind of read our clients and see what they need. And I don't think it's that unique, actually, Mary, because, I mean, it's unique that we're married to each other and that we have this. But I think that in any partnership, I think that's part of it, right? Is figuring out, doing your KPA, figuring out what you're really good at. Don't spend your time trying to learn things or do things you don't like or you're not good at. You find that person.
Yeah.
Right? And you come together, and then it's a beautiful partnership because there's not a lot of getting into each other's business. I don't need to micromanage him. He doesn't need to micromanage me.
Right.
And if you find that person, whether they're your spouse or your best friend or a stranger, that's where you can really kind of like just soar in your own strength.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's interesting as people are new, and I guess I count myself in this, right? Where I definitely, Angie, am a lot like you in a lot of ways. I'm a people person. I'm not terrible with paperwork, but I'm not great with like wanting to do the marketing and buying the gifts. I hate errand running, all these things. And I'm like, I need an admin so bad, you know? But it's hard to make the leap sometimes, and you have to pay them and think, you know, and all of those, and finding the person and being organized to do that. So do you guys use that KPA system to for future hires and stuff? Do you use that to help you determine who the right fits are?
Yeah, we've hired 4 or 5.
3, 4, 5.
4 or 5 people, always by the book. Our first hire, we kind of fudged it a little bit. Like we used the tools and then we kind of like didn't believe them.
And we fell in love with this
And you
person.
fall in love with a person and you're like, well, the KPA says, and the disc profile says, and the, career visioning says, this isn't a good match for us, but we really like her. And
8 months later,
That worked out, yeah.
8 months later, she's dancing on a pole in Las Vegas at Mega Camp. And you're like, what happened?
so
I forgot to ask that question.
yeah, we've learned the hard way that, you have to trust the system. Gut instinct is important. I think you have to have a good gut. And there are people who can perform in a position that they're not suited for 100%. But over the long haul, I think finding the right hire has been really important. And we're still a work in progress. We've never wanted to be a mega team. We've never said, hey, we're going to have 12 buyer's agents. We've always called our team a right size team, which is what fits and is comfortable and is organic. And, the profitability of a small team can be higher than the profitability of a large team. So we have 5 right now, 5 total people on the team, and we feel like our profitability is really good. And if we go farther, that might happen if it's organic and it seems right, and it might not.
Right.
But we're happy where we're at.
Where do you guys find the most success finding that talent? Where have you looked to
We
find it?
steal it from the market center. I mean, right now we've got Rach, who's our superstar. And that was just a gift because.
Yeah, and we did not KPA her at all. I mean, we did nothing with her. She was going to leave the market center. And
for years we had said, oh my gosh, if we could have Rachel.
We never approached her. We never asked her. We never groomed her. We never said a word to her. But she approached us one day and said, I think I'm going to leave KW. And we said, please, 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 please consider other options.
Right.
She's like, what other options? So we basically laid out, a roadmap for her. And she said, I'm in.
Right.
And then we talked to Chuck and Tiff and said, hey, we're not stealing anybody because she's leaving. And they were like, you have our blessing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to backtrack a little bit though, Angie, because I can't believe that you just woke up one day and said, I'm a realtor, and the business started coming. So, and so much of it's probably innate and you don't even know what brought the business to you. But if you had to like pin it down back in the early days, because so much of this is kind of helping people grow to be where you guys are at. What did you do? How did you grow the business in that first decade?
So my first year, I was at North Nagle at the Brighton office. And like I said, John Arquette was my mentor. And I didn't realize for many years that I was an independent contractor. I thought I was an employee of North Nagle Realtors and he was my boss. So I sat down with him and I said, what do I need to do? And I took copious notes, and he said, you need to get business cards. You need to get a personal brochure made, because if you have a brochure and you hand it to someone, no one's going to say, how long have you been in the business? Because you're going to have something that makes you look professional, and you need to do as many open houses as you can. Now, back then there was no lead generation. Like, you were supposed to tell people you were a realtor, but we didn't lead generate.
Right.
So that's what I did. My very first clients were my parents. Just strangely enough, they were ready. They had sold something the year prior. They were renting for a year, trying to figure out what they were going to do. And then I sold them a house. And then it was a friend's grandmother who died. And then it was a friend of mine from a waitressing job that I had. But we looked at the end of my first year, I had done 11 transactions. And when we looked at where those 11 transactions came from, 8 of them were people I met at open houses.
Okay.
And he said to me, some people do a really good open house. Some people don't. You're kicking ass at open houses. Keep doing them. And so I did, because that's what he told me what to do.
Yeah.
And that's where my business came from. Now, I don't know what I do at open houses that's different from other people, but I've always had very good luck with that.
I can answer that. Angie has an innate ability at hospitality. and making people comfortable. And she does not forget a face. She does not forget a name. She doesn't forget a phone number. She doesn't forget details about conversations she's had with people. So she makes people feel, she's a great listener. She makes people feel really comfortable. We have never, ever, ever once done a hard sell on anybody. We've never, stuck our hand out and said, hey, would you like to work with me? It's always been a real soft and friendly thing, because it's natural.
Right.
And it just resonates with people, and the phone rings.
Okay.
The
Okay.
phone rings.
So you don't have a follow-up plan for after open houses?
Well, now we do.
Now.
Now we do, but then I didn't. But I will tell you that piece of advice about the brochure
Mm-hmm.
as a new agent was the best possible advice, because what I did, well, I guess I did do some follow-up, because I specifically remember doing an open house for Marilyn Kessler, who was like an old-time agent years ago. And I had like 9 people through the open house, and I was able to get them to all sign in with their addresses. And I sent them all a brochure and thanked them for coming to the open house. And 3 of them called me, and those 3 people referred me. And that, I can look at that one open house and think that was like a real catalyst for future business.
Right.
I got a call from a woman 6 years later. She said, I was cleaning out my junk drawer in my kitchen and I found this brochure. And I remember sitting down and meeting you at a house on Benton Street in the South Wedge. And I remember you telling me that your husband was an art teacher, and I'm an art teacher. And I thought, if you could put up with him, then you can put up with me. Will you work with me? And she referred me to her brother, her mother. Her mother died. I sold the mother's house. I've sold 2 houses for her. And that brochure just brought me so much business. So, and it doesn't have to be fancy, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but it's something to put in someone's hand.
Of course, now we can't hand anything to anybody.
Well, here you go.
But I was thinking about that as you were saying, like, well, what's a modern day brochure? It could be a brochure, but it's, how does your website look? Like, how do nice, do you look put together to show
Right.
that you are a professional, right? As opposed, like, how are you showing up to the open houses? What do you dress? I feel like, do you have signs that are personalized to you, or are they generic? So do you think that that's it? It's just kind of getting your look and feel, because people are expecting that these days, right? It's kind of easy to get that done.
Yeah, I always tell new agents, though, don't break the bank on marketing. Don't spend too much money up front. You have to build it slowly, because you can go and, you can get kind of paralyzed with, oh, I don't have my business card. Oh, I don't have my brochure. Oh, I don't have my signs. Oh, I don't have this. I don't have that. I can't do this. I can't do that. You really just have to stick your hand out and tell people you're a realtor.
Right.
And let's face it, the technology these days is great, but I think people are sick of it. I think people like a phone call.
Right.
People like to hear, hey, I met you. I remember your daughter. How are things? You know what I mean? Because you just don't get that anymore.
Right.
I'm a little old school like that. Like, I prefer to have a conversation with someone. And especially, like, a big chunk of our business is, and kind of has been for a long time, is the senior living community, where they're moving out of their house and they're moving into senior living. And that subset of people, they don't want an email. They don't want a text. They want a conversation. They want a face-to-face conversation.
Right.
And so you kind of have to know your audience. If you've got a 30-year-old millennial buyer, then yeah, you're going to text them your electronic business card.
Right.
But if you get a referral from somebody who's over 60 years old, you better show up at their house.
Until about 3 or 4 years ago, Angie insisted on writing contracts in person on paper. She insisted on presenting offers in person at the dining room table. She insisted on the personal contact. Now, obviously, now we can't do that anymore. We can't be competitive and do that. But she still would rather meet a client at Starbucks and sign paperwork on paper. Because to her, that's part of the relationship building process.
Yeah.
Now we're selling houses to people from California who have never been here.
James.
So things changed, obviously, but still, her vision is personal. Let's get to know these people. Let's have a relationship.
Okay. That's awesome. Where did the tagline "Change is Beautiful" come from? I love that, and it's so unique.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll tell the backstory. He'll tell. For me, everything's emotional. For him, everything is intentional. That's just our MO. So when I wanted a tattoo forever. When I turned 40, I decided I was going to get a tattoo, because I figured if my mother yelled at me, I could at least say, Mom, I'm 40, back off.
Right.
So I spent the whole last year of my 39 thinking about what do I want this tattoo to be? And I kept coming up with this changing. I wanted to talk about change and growth. And there's a scripture that I love about, being a new creation and all this stuff. And I decided 40 was it. So I got a tattoo of a butterfly. I wanted a tattoo of a butterfly. And I had this scripture that I really wanted to focus on. And I went to the tattoo parlor and I told the guy the receptionist my story. And she said, okay, I'm going to get a tattoo artist to come out and talk to you and he'll design it. And the guy walks out and sticks out his hand and he says, hi. Oh, so big part of it was the wandering in the desert for 40 years and finally finding my place in this world. You know, us women, we need to we hit 40 and it's this whole thing. And this guy walks out and says, hi, my name's Moses. And I was like, oh, okay. So he designed my tattoo, which is now our logo. But so that was when I was 40, I got it. And then I came to KW and they're like, oh, you need to brand yourself, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And JD's like, let's do the butterfly. So the butterfly for me is a symbol of growth and change, whether it's, you're changing, you're getting married, you're buying your first house, you're getting divorced, you lost a spouse, you're having children. It's always a time of change when people are buying homes. So it was this whole thing. And then, everybody's got their logo about, making moves and doing this and doing that. And I don't have that kind of brain. So I threw it at him and then he came up with.
So because I'm a marketing person, I like to make a service mark that's simple, memorable and concise. And I don't believe that it has to have a house in it. I don't believe it has to say anything about real estate. I believe you brand the person. And Angie Flack Brown has always been what she's done business as. And then people started calling her AFB, 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 AFB. So it just kind of morphed. And I took the butterfly and made the logo. And then our first tagline, I think, was transition with confidence.
Yeah, which sounded dorky. And we grew into it. And then one day, because I'm always doing taglines and branding things, change is beautiful just popped into our head and it worked.
No, it's perfect.
People post, like, it's so exciting. Like, I had a picture, a client sent me a picture. They moved to Florida. She took a picture of a butterfly that landed on her husband's chest the day they moved. And she sent it to me and she said, you're following us to Florida. Change is beautiful. Oh. And I was like, oh my God, people pay attention.
Yeah.
No, it really is like perfect.
We don't really know what our marketing's doing, but we do get phone calls from people all the time who are like, I found you online and I want to hire you. I love your marketing. I love your logo. I love and that it's just a little service mark that if somebody can remember it,
right.
That's what the point is, right? So I always tell new agents, come up with your logo or your design or just your name and write it for 10 years. Don't change things. Don't make it too complicated. Don't overthink it. Just make it memorable, make it simple, and make it connect to you. Mm-hmm. And eventually that brand will start. I mean, we all wish we were an Apple, right? But we're not. But in our own little way, if we have 100, 200, 300, 1,000 people in Rochester, New York who see that butterfly and go, oh, that's Angie Flack Brown.
Right.
Then we've done our job.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Speaking of marketing, like, where do you guys fall in the marketing? Like, do you do a lot of paid leads? Is it all referral based? Do you do a lot of like advertising? Where do you guys kind of show yourselves?
We bought leads from Zillow for about 9 months and hated it. Yeah. Absolutely hated it. That was 6-7 years ago. Our business is like 95% referral.
Yeah.
But we do market heavily on social media. We do a lot of leave behinds and a lot of print advertising not print advertising, but print marketing before COVID happened. Mm-hmm. I design all of our brochures and materials that we hand out. I design them to look as professional as humanly possible.
Right.
So that when we go on a listing appointment and we leave behind a brochure, it looks better than the next agent's, and it really tells our story. So it's memorable. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people kind of hold on to those things. Like most home buyers will hold on to materials in a folder, right? And then when a friend says, hey, who do you know, I need to sell my house, they go and they rifle through their folders and they find the brochure. You know, so we don't buy any leads currently. But we do, like I said, the soft sell. We call all of our clients. We check in on all of our clients. We come from contribution. We try to make sure that people are happy with their move, or we just give full service. Okay. And it kind of comes from there.
Okay. How about the nurturing? Do you guys, obviously I know you make the phone calls, that's important. Do you do events, parties, you know, certain things like that? Is there a system or a process in place for nurturing your database, since that's clearly like where you get most of your business from?
There used to be. This year there is not.
This year not so much.
We have done client appreciation parties. We have done food drives and fundraisers. We have done all sorts of events over the years to keep our clients engaged and to know what we're all about and to make them feel special. And that all came to a halt, obviously.
Right.
So we intend to, yes, we intend to do those things. Currently, we're not. We do as much as we can.
Yeah, it is hard.
We did a really great event. Our biggest client appreciation party we did at the zoo. And it was after hours. So we had the whole zoo, we had it catered, we had a bar, we had a band, we had, I don't know how many people came, almost 200 or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And people brought friends and we met new clients that way. Now you look at like, okay, we spent almost $10,000 on this party. What was the return? We probably didn't make $10,000 out of it.
No, we did.
Yet. Well, yeah, we did.
I think we did.
But I think that people still, like, it's been it's been 2 years now, and it comes up on Facebook, and some of our clients posted pictures and they're like sending them to me, like, remember this awesome event?
Right.
You know, so you don't know always where it's going to come from, but you know, even when we did a couple of years ago, we did the Hurricane Harvey thing, you know, the market center, and I think we took a lead on that, and we had, I don't know, 40 of our clients came and donated stuff. And that was huge. I mean, it was space time that they felt like they could give back to us. You know, we always want to give, but I think the people really want to be involved in our lives as well.
Yeah.
I will also say this, that the KW Connect and Command has given us a vehicle for referrals, and I'm very active, and I post our marketing in KW Connect, and I built our referral network through KW Connect and KW Referrals, and we go to national events and we meet people and we trade business cards, and I have 4,000 Facebook friends, and I actually know like 4 people. And those,
me and Jack and Lucas.
and the 4,000 Facebook friends, I have no idea who they are, but they're mostly realtors.
Right.
We get probably a half dozen to a dozen referrals, out of market referrals a year. And people remember the butterfly, and people remember the conversation we had at Mega Camp, and people check out our Facebook, and we have realtors from all over the country who are following our Facebook page. And the phone rings and it's somebody from New Mexico saying, I have a client who wants to move to Rochester, and it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of our business that we never anticipated.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I don't think many people think about that, right? We get all those like Kelly referrals, and you're like, what are the chances? Like, I'll accept you, but you know,
Right.
No.
But it sounds like that actually.
We actively cultivate those relationships, and we communicate really well with agents across the country, and I'm always chatting with people from around the country, and you know, it's great. It's great business. It's free business. Yeah. We love referrals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another thing you guys are pretty awesome at is the downline. I think you guys are like our downline rock stars. Is there a system to that, or does that just kind of happen naturally as well?
That's always like the back of my mind. Like, this is a gold mine that I'm not tapping into. We are really, really blessed with a lot of people that came. Oh, I mean, we've had several people come over and we didn't even know they were coming over.
Oh,
And
really?
they named us because we're friends or they've seen us or whatever. That's something I need to be more intentional about. Kim, that's a conversation I'd love to have with you at some point about how we can continue to do that. But that's been, I mean, we got very close last year to being 100%. I think we were at like 16,000 in profit share.
18.
So, you know, once you get to that 20, you're 100%, which is pretty amazing.
We've never really worked at that either. It's just kind of relationships.
Right.
All about relationships.
It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
And if somebody's thinking about coming to KW, Angie will just tell them what we know. We'll do what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Just tell our story and be really honest and it resonates with people.
Okay.
We've never really worked hard at it.
I will tell you though, there's several people that I have an ongoing list that I keep for, you know, years, and I leave it for months at a time. And then all of a sudden they show up as a new agent, or I'm like, why didn't I follow up with them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Dang it.
I know. So it's one of those things that, like, yes, we want to come from contribution, and there's some, you know, some money attached to it. So you got to be mindful of it and make it a priority, which quite honestly, I mean, and here's the thing, everyone knows this, right? There's 18 million things that you can do at KW and we can't do them all.
Right.
Right. So like I beat myself up about the things that I don't do all the time. But again, I kind of stay in my lane. I do what I'm good at, and it's working enough, but the intentionality needs to be there for some of the other things.
Yeah. I actually think that's one of the biggest challenges, especially with all this technology coming our way, is how do you spend your time? Because you can't do everything, but everything's important, right?
Well, the goal for us in the next probably 3 to 5 years is to get Angie out of production, which completely freaks her out. She doesn't want to be out of production. She likes the people, but I feel like she just needs to be talking to people and meeting people.
Right.
She needs to be an influencer, not a worker bee.
Mm-hmm.
And we can leave that to the youngsters like James Reyes, who can do that job proficiently, and Angie can just build the business and build the downline and all that kind of stuff. And we have this conversation all the time. How do we get you out of production? And honestly, she doesn't want to be out of production. So, you know, there's a tension there between being an employee of your own business and being the master of your own business.
Mm-hmm.
So our thought process is we would like to build our team and our downline and our revenue streams in the next 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, whatever happens, depending on COVID, and then walk away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And give it to people who are competent and who are, you know, part of the family or somebody that has really invested in our business, and give it to them and say, here, run with this.
Right.
And then we go off into the sunset, and maybe we sell a little bit, maybe we don't.
Right. Well, and that's the beauty, Angie, right? Is that you don't ever have to be 100% out of production. You can always dabble. You can dabble in production just to keep your
Right.
noodle wet, right?
The truth is, though, we have like what we call our referral rock stars, or the golden goose. We have lots of golden geese that have referred us 5, 6, 7, 8 clients, right? Those are the people that I should be sticking with.
Right.
Those are the people I should be taking out, right? If somebody that I've, you know, worked with for a long time sends me 10 referrals over a 10-year period, I should always take those clients on.
Right.
Because they're going to appreciate that, you know? Right. So there's a way to, you know, work a small portion of the business where it's important. And,
right.
you know, if somebody calls in on a sign call, I'm not going to worry about that, you know?
Right. Right. So I'm curious, with this notion of Angie getting out of production, how do you visualize you'll spend your time then? How do you think then is the best way to spend your time?
Getting a massage every day. I told JD, this is what wealth means to me. Ready?
Right.
A massage every day, which I figure is like $60 a day. It's like $400 a week. That's like, you know, a lot, but not a lot. And having fresh flowers on my desk once a week. If I can have those 2 things, I've made it, right?
I think you're so close.
I'm so close. But how I would spend my day, so I would love to do some volunteer work, which is a great way to meet people. I love having coffee. I love having lunch with people and just chatting. You know, I would love to, you know, do more hobbies, and with hobbies comes new friends, right? Getting on a board, you know, there's some places right now that I could do some work on different boards and stuff. And I think that that's really like what he was saying, the influencer piece, right? Like be somebody in my community that I can connect with to other people, and then they know who you are, and then they call you when it's time for business, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's, I'm delving into that because it's kind of like a lot where my mind has been lately too, as far as like, you have to be out in the world. Yesterday, Harlan Furbush was saying, I guess his mom's saying was like, you have to circulate to percolate or something like that. Right?
True.
In order to keep things moving, you've got to be out there and circulating, you know. But it's hard sometimes because it feels non-productive.
You need to tell people you're an agent. That's the other thing. That was the one thing I'll never forget. John Arquette said to me, he said, don't be a secret agent.
Right.
You know, you can't go and have lunch with somebody and never bring up what you do.
Right.
So we have this little, we giggle from Forrest Gump. We say Angie Flack Brown, it's a household name.
Of course. Bubblegum shrimp, it's a household name.
Angie Flack Brown, it's a household name. Angie has a heart to give back, right? And it's not self-serving. We're not looking for more business. We're not trying to build our downline. We're not doing anything. She has a heart to give back. She would love to be, you know, on the school board, or to be working in the community to do something. And we know that there will be business that will come from that.
I'm the dum-dum that never carries business cards with me.
Never. But that's actually a good thing, because you get to have the conversation, say, oh, I don't have a business card. Can I get your phone number?
Right, and then mail it to them. Hopefully you do mail it to them. That's the problem.
Right, or you call them and get their info and, you know.
Right, and follow up.
So her out of production to me looks like her just being an influencer and just doing the things that she does naturally, and business will come from that.
And more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More of it.
So kind of going back to, if you were starting now, what would you be doing? And what would you have done differently if you know now what you knew then what you know now?
I think if we started this together when we were in our 20s, we'd be much farther along, obviously. When I joined her, she was a $5-6 million producer. And in the first year I joined her, we doubled to a $10 to $12 million producers.
Which makes perfect sense because there's two of us, but I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think, you know, I thought $10 million sounded crazy.
And it wasn't that we did anything different. We were just more intentional about it.
Sure.
And it becomes a game. You know, it's for us, it's like you know, JD came up with this crazy system for a while. You know, when you watch a movie about all like the murderer and the cops have the crazy board and there's pictures and strings and all that crap. Well, we came up with a crazy board, right? It was cards, it was playing cards, and red people were listings and black were buyers. And we moved them all around from, you know, the bottom, they were in the pipeline, and then they were active, and then they were, you know, and it became a game. Like, how many cards can we get on the thing? And I think
it was Trello before Trello.
It was Trello. It was homemade Trello.
I remember that. I remember coming into your office and going, what are you doing?
But it just makes it fun. And I think, like I said, like from the beginning, I didn't know that I was an independent contractor. I didn't know that I was a business owner. So I thought you used to go to the office and you wait for your phone to ring, you know? So I think, you know, starting off, so when I was 24, I was a waitress at Aladdin's in Pittsburgh, and I waited on Randy Young and Michael Hames almost every single day. And at one point,
Andy
Hopfinger.
Oh yeah.
And multiple others. But Randy came to me one day and she said, I see something special in you. Will you come to my office? I want to talk to you about business. And I was like, okay. So I went and had lunch with her and, oh God, Sharon Rich, who has since passed away. They were partners, and they said, we want you to work on our real estate team as a realtor. And I was like, I don't be a realtor. Realtors are old and boring. Like, no thanks. I kick myself now. Like, oh my God, you know, but anyway, you know, I think that if I were starting off now, the first thing I would want to just remember every morning is I own my own business, and I am in charge of what I do, and I am in charge of my destiny. And I didn't know that then.
Right.
You know?
And Andy Hopfinger, who we're doing a deal with right now, and I've known Andy Hopfinger since I was a little boy, said to Angie, don't do it.
Yeah, I called him.
He said, don't do it. It'll destroy your family. You won't have time for your kids. And this is the non-KW mindset, right?
Right.
That it will own you. And it's never really owned us. I mean, there's been some summers where it's been a little hectic, but we've never let it own us.
Mm-hmm.
You got to own your own business. You got to make your own choices. You got to set your own agenda. And so Andy Hopfinger, great guy, said to Angie, don't do it.
I called 4 people when I got my license and asked them all, what do you think? And 3 of them said, don't do it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was scarcity mindset? Like they just didn't want more people in the business?
And partly I think they saw me, you know, I was young when I did this. And I think they saw me, they were like friends' parents and stuff. And they were like, oh, honey, like, it's such a hard job. Like you're gonna, you know, I remember Marilyn Schutte, probably nobody knows her, but she's like 100.
I do.
Okay. She's like 190. And she was the first person I met when I got to the Nothnagel office in Brighton. And she said to me, who are you? What are you doing here? You know, and I told her, oh, you know, I'm Angie. I'm starting out. She goes, do you have kids? And I said, yeah. She goes, quit now. Your kids are going to be in therapy for the rest of their lives. And I was like, oh, shit, what did I get myself into? Well, then I realized it's because Marilyn's nuts. That's why her kids are in therapy. Not because of real estate. I love her to pieces. Don't get me wrong. She was one of my first mentors and she was great. But I think that there is a thing about, you know, oh, it's hard. It's going to kill you. And, you know, I suppose it's all in your personality prior to becoming a realtor.
Right. Well, and setting expectations and boundaries and all of those sorts of things, right? There's a way to be a sole proprietor and not lose everything.
Yeah.
Well, I guess when you think about it, though, like when I started as an admin 19 years ago, like I was doing a daily search for my agent's clients. Like there wasn't a save in the MLS, you know, and so I'm even told like prior to that was the book that you had to go in, you know, so I think maybe the people like the Marilyns of the world, you know, they were probably never home because of the way things were. You know, so we're like, oh, honey, you're not going to have time for your kids, you know, whatever. So
you're right. You're right.
It's just amazing to think about the differences of then and now. And, you know, I'm about your age, Angie, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, too, that I would love to interject, if I may, Mary. Yeah. With the way business is being done right now, and there's so much we can do virtually and we can work from our phone and all that stuff. Great. However, where are the boundaries? Where are the boundaries between when I get out of work and when I'm with my family? And when you're working with your spouse and you're laying in bed at night watching TV and one of you is scrolling through houses and you're talking, I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, like it can become all encompassing, right?
Right.
And that is one of the things that we have struggled with over the years, and we work on and we do well sometimes and other times not so well. But I think it's so important that work-life balance is so important, whether you're a single agent or you're on a big team or you're working with your husband. You know, I'm seeing here John and Becky are both on, and you guys both work with your spouses, and it can be a struggle to not talk about it all the time.
Oh, right.
You know, I mean, it's just, we go on vacation and, you know, we're driving out west and JD and Jack are in the front seat looking at the scenery and I'm in the back on my computer, like writing offers, which is great because I cannot be here. I can do it, except for you tend to miss things too.
We used to go on vacation and it would be a $5,000 vacation and we'd lose $5,000 worth of business and it would be a $10,000 loss. Well, not loss, right? Because it's a vacation.
Cost.
But cost would be $10,000. We can now go on vacation and make more money while we're on vacation than the vacation costs. And that's a mindset. Like I always drive and she always works. And it's a good arrangement because we can actually generate income while we're driving.
Except for we're driving through Sedona.
I know. Is there's reception in Sedona?
Oh, we have a great story. if we have time, we're driving through the Rocky Mountains and we have bad reception, and all of a sudden we get into an area where there's good reception, and the text messages start to bing on the phone, and our buyer wants to put in an offer on a house, and it's due at 6 o'clock and it's 5:30.
Oh, jeez.
And we're outside of Breckenridge.
No,
and
Telluride.
Oh.
And what do? So we got to find cell reception so we can get the Wi-Fi going so we can write an offer. So we're literally driving up a mountain looking for cell reception, holding up our
I'm
phones
holding
like
up
idiots.
the phone like, oh, like 3 feet's going to make a difference when you're at 12,000 feet.
And we were panicked for like an hour. The offer
We got in a
was
big
late.
fight.
We got in a big fight.
Because I just wanted to go to Telluride. I said, take me to Telluride because I know there's a restaurant or something.
Right,
And so instead, he's finding these little small businesses along the road, like pulling into the parking lot to see if, I'm like, just take me to Telluride.
So I'm trying to save time because we had a goal and a destination, and it wasn't Telluride. So anyway, we got to Telluride. We had the Wi-Fi. We wrote our offer. The offer wasn't accepted.
Oh.
It
I was about to say, did you get it?
was a total crazy thing.
Yeah.
Almost ruined our day. But we
But
had
you
to
did it. And that's customer service, right?
Right. We had to brush it off and not tell our clients we were driving all over the Rocky Mountains looking for Wi-Fi, and, just move on.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That is pretty funny. But in general, that is not the way it is. And like you said, you can write your offers from the beach, which is really nice.
Right. But I will say, I would say if somebody asked me, if you're getting into business with your spouse, you got to have those conversations ahead of time, set up those boundaries ahead of time, and decide, what's more important every day. Some days, we're going to work for 14 hours. We're going to talk about it till we close our eyes. And other days, we're turning off our phones. We're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're so good at different things that I never worry about the negotiations. I don't even think about it.
Right.
I don't think about negotiations. That's her job.
And I don't even give a crap about marketing because I know it's going to be done perfectly and I don't have to look at it or anything.
So that's like really, really a complete person in two people. And there's things I don't have to worry about. And there's things that she doesn't have to worry about. There's things that James shouldn't have to worry about. And, just do what you're good at, and the other stuff is going to be taken care of. That's about having a team that you trust.
Right.
And people around you who fill your gaps, and knowing that it's going to get done, just frees your mind up to do other things.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice, actually. And kind of what the MREA says to do. It's just sometimes harder. You guys kind of have it in a family unit, which is fantastic, but it's great advice either way. Did anyone have any questions out there? I know we're getting close to the end of your hour, so I don't want to.
Yeah, let's do questions.
I see there's
Rita did say, how did you manage a time when you were doing 5 million with no assistance?
Well, she was at Nothnagel and she had assistants. She had a 30% split. She had lots of help. But when she came to KW with no assistant.
That was tough.
Yeah.
So my biggest year on my own was 6.5 million, and that was at Nothnagel. And I remember, I used to carry my files around because this was back in the day of paper. And I walked into my office one day and dropped my files on the desk of the admin sitting up front. And I laid on the floor behind her desk and started to cry. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell day it is. Like, can you please just look at my files and tell me what I need to do? And that was when I said to, the person who used to run Nothnagel, I want to start a team. And that was when he kind of patted me on the butt and said, go by. And that was the next year was when I left. And I said, I got to, do this. So Rita, 5 million is about as far as you can go without some help.
Unless you're super organized. If you're really, really good at it, you can probably go farther than that. But 5 to 6 million, that's the crazy zone right there by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm betting that there's probably some people out there that can't do that, depending on systems and organization and stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. And this is when I'm talking 6.5 million, I'm talking about 12 years ago where average sale price was 130.
Right.
Now my average sale price is 2 something. So it was like even more volume.
Right. Right.
But then we did 10 million together, and we looked up at the end of the year and we're like, how did that happen? It didn't seem that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It really didn't seem that bad with the two of us.
Right.
So doubling your production and doubling your manpower, I think there's I think probably the two of us, if we really put our mind to it, could do 15, 20 by ourselves.
I would hate to see what that would look like.
I wouldn't. I like that.
Janie's like, I think that's a challenge coming along. Oh my gosh, too funny. All right, Taylor just asked, do you respond to text calls late? I struggle with those quick texts that come in at 9 p.m., but I know I need to establish work hours to sort of maintain a work-life balance.
It's always been a struggle for us. Angie will respond to a text message. I can shut it off. I can shut it off at 6, at 7, at 8, at 9. Angie can't do that as well.
I think, there has been times, now I haven't worked with buyers in a long time, and I think, Taylor, that's the buyer heavy question, right? Because they're looking on Zillow at 9 o'clock at night and they're like, oh my God, what about this house? I used to say to people at my buyer consultation, I work 12 hours a day. I work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 8 to 8, Monday through Sunday. If you text me after 8, chances are you won't hear from me until the morning. And people get that. They understand that. Now, that said, in this market, oh my God, people want to have responses immediately, but 99% of the houses now are on delayed negotiations anyway.
Right.
So it's not like you're going to miss it because you didn't show it to them at 8:30 at night, the day it's listed. So I think for sanity's sake, and if you lose a client over something like that, that's going to be 1 in 5 years. So I would say get your boundaries set and stick to them now, because people will respect you and respect you more for having hours that are open. I mean, I can't go to Bagel Land after 3 o'clock because they're closed. I'm not going to never go to Bagel Land again. I'm going to remember that they close at 3 o'clock, and my bagel dog is not going to be there if I'm not there before 3, so.
The other mindset piece, Taylor, is I have this thing that I learned probably a couple of years into it. It's not about the business you're doing. It's about the next piece of business, right? So what's that text message about? Is it about a deal that you're writing? Is it about a deal you're negotiating? Is it about a deal that you are, that's under contract? Or is it about maybe somebody inquiring about a property? The next piece of business is more important than the one you're working on. So is it a text message that's like maybe lead generation related, and that might be more important than holding the hand of a scared buyer who doesn't know if their mortgage commitment is going to come in on time. You don't need to answer that one. You need to answer maybe the cold call. So it depends. I'm always a what's next pipeline kind of guy. I don't really care about the business we're doing it. That's rudimentary.
Because we already know that
we already know their business. We already know we're going to give them good customer service. We already know they're going to close. We already know how to work that piece of business and do a really good job at it. It's the next piece of business that we need to be thinking about.
And you know what? I'm glad I have him, because I will rest on my laurels. I'll say, oh my God, I just had a $300,000 contract. And that's the end of the day for me. And he said, hey, honey, what's next? And I'm like, oh, can't we just celebrate this for 1 minute, If he didn't say that, I would probably be living in a van down by the river. So.
See, I want our pipeline to be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 people deep.
Right.
The more the better, because we got to a point, I'm just going to say this out loud, we got to a point a couple of years ago where we paid ourselves payroll from the company, the Angie Flack Realty Group. We paid ourselves payroll every 2 weeks, 52 weeks out of the year, and we know how much we're making, instead of like the old days where it was like, oh, we have a commission, we need a commission advance, we need a blah 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 blah, we got to pay bills, blah 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 blah. So when you get to that point where you have that rolling income, that's where you start to see that real estate is not a job, it's a career. You can build business,
right?
And that's a great place to get to.
Yeah. So you guys, I'm taking it, are an S corp then?
C.
We're C Corp because our tax attorney told us he wanted us to be a C Corp. And then we've had other people who have said, oh, you should have been an S Corp. But, we're C Corp for whatever reason.
Gotcha. But you do pay yourselves a salary and kind of.
Yeah.
We do, and we'll slow it down if the income's not there. And I'm always looking at future receivables, and I'm thinking like a business person.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock.
I put the whole thing out there and say, this is a business. This is what we need to do to stay in business, and let's go.
Okay. Okay. Do you follow the MREA, or you kind of use it as a guide and do your own thing?
You know, I've read it a bunch of times, so it's internal.
Yeah.
I don't really follow it, like
I think
open
we
it
do
up.
I think we do is it the budget model? Is that the one
Yeah.
where you like look at your year ahead and go, okay, what do we want to do? What are we going to spend? How much do you look backwards?
Right.
Yep.
So I do all the budgets and the goal setting, and I do my cost of sales, and I do my expenses, and I figure out what our revenue needs to be to make our goals, and I work backwards, and I have spreadsheets that you wouldn't believe, and I use
Okay.
the REA, and I think of it that way.
Okay. Do you have any kind of accounting programs that you love that you find are helpful?
We broke down last year and hired an accountant
Okay.
And a bookkeeper.
and a bookkeeper.
Oh, but wait.
But I use CTE, Committed to Excellence, as my spreadsheet of choice, which gives me a full picture of my business.
Okay.
CTE is a software written by Kelvin Mergen, who used to be a KW agent. And it's fairly affordable, and it just gives me a big picture of my business.
Okay.
We use QuickBooks for everything else. So I have.
But what about the thing that you designed? Oh my God. It's the
I do an allocation chart.
allocation chart. That's something, if you guys are interested in, can share it with people.
Yeah, I have an allocation chart, which is a spreadsheet, basically reverse engineers your business, and it looks at what you need to make, what you have to make to pay the bills. Then it looks at what you want to make to live your dream life, and it breaks all the numbers down so that you actually can see at the beginning of the year how much business you need to do to live your dream life, and how much business you need to do to just get by.
Right. Yeah.
To run your business. And that's illuminating because it talks about units, and it talks about volume, and it basically says, if you want to stay in business, you have to do 20 units.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's a motivator.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of it being haphazard and you just going out and saying, oh, I'm going to sell. Look, I did 10. Look, I did 12. Look, I did 15. Look, I did 20. Look, I did 30.
Right.
You know what you have to do.
Right. Absolutely.
And then you structure your behavior around that knowledge.
I feel like I could talk to you guys forever, but it's 10:02, so I want to be respectful of your time. Anybody else questions out there? Can you bring me a bagel dog if you're coming to the office?
Cheese or no cheese?
I don't know what that is. I won't lie.
A bagel dog?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is a bagel dog?
It's the best bagel. First of all, a bagel and a 12 Corners is the best bagels in the entire world outside of New York City. So if you like bagels, you have to go to Bagel Land.
Okay.
And then, so they take a Hebrew National hot dog, which is my favorite kind of hot dog, and they wrap it in a bagel and they bake it. And then you put mustard on it. And it's like the best thing that could ever happen to you.
It's like a pretzel dog or a corn dog, but it's a bagel around a hot dog.
But it's a bagel dog. It sounds very healthy.
It's amazing.
I'm intrigued. I won't lie.
I know. I feel like maybe we need bagel dogs come to our next office thing out there.
Right.
Too funny. Too funny. All right. Well, this has been great, guys. As I said, I don't want to take too much more of your time. So if nobody else has any questions out there, any final words of advice or encouragement for the newbies out there?
Have fun. Do what you love. I posted the greatest quote the other day by Maya Angelou. I don't know if anyone saw it. I'm going to read it to you really quickly because it's she's my favorite. Anything she says, she could say like, God bless you, and that would be enough. But she said, give me 1 second. Sorry. She said, you can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off you. Isn't that beautiful?
That's awesome.
Change is beautiful.
Thank you.
And with that, awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. We appreciate
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye, guys.